Hi, everybody. Welcome to this live stream. Thank you so much to all of you who joined for the 3-day boot camp. It was absolutely amazing. Shauna and I were blown away by your lovely comments, by emails we've been receiving, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. So if you were actually at the boot camp and you've watched the 3 videos or even 1 or 2, maybe you might just like to drop us a comment and let us know what your aha moment was. Was there one thing that really stood out in your mind that was the most helpful? And I'm just going to introduce Shauna again. So here's Shauna. Hi, Shauna.
Hello, how are you?
And Shauna is going to be working away again, monitoring the comments. Now, today is really just all about saying thank you for the boot camp and then asking you, are you fired up? You know, are you ready to add some excitement and variety to your art? And to do this in an environmentally mindful and health conscious way. Because from the messages and the letters, etc., that we have been getting, it's clear that some of you are interested in looking at the opportunity further. You want to really transform what you're doing with your textile art, and you're interested in things from the sustainability perspective, which is really great because I know I shared a little bit of my backstory in boot camp day 1 when I shared the video about the old property, renovating the property, etc., etc. And it's lovely to make a connection with people who have like-minded interests as me. The outdoors, the garden, recycling, sustainability, foraging, interior design, landscape architecture, all those things. It's wonderful to meet like-minded people. And if you are interested in learning further with me, the bootcamp was free, but I also have a paid program, which I'm going to just explain about now. And let me show you how eco-printing and wet felting, or just one or the other, they can bring new life to your textiles and they can open up a whole new world of possibility. So we all have come from different backgrounds, but many people are interested in teaching, in sharing what they're learning with others, whether that's with adults or with children. Many people are already textile artists or working in different areas of craft and are interested in learning more. And eco-printing is fantastic because the 3-day bootcamp was just about eco-printing on fabric, but also you can eco-print on paper, and it's just absolutely incredible. And obviously that's something that I share in the club. So say goodbye to feeling overwhelmed, and hello to beautiful, complex eco-prints from the dirty pot. So it's really important to say that all the teaching I do online, it's always about working without the traditional powdered mordants. Now, I do understand if you're using certain vegetation and doing natural dye, it's essential to use traditional powdered mordants. That's a given. But where possible, there are different sorts of vegetation that you can use that you do not need mordants for. And with the eco-printing in the dirty pot, I'm not using the powdered mordants. And that's just important to say right here. And I can share pro tips with you to achieve the color and the results that you want. And things like modifying your pot liquid, how to achieve different background colors, how the fabric prints differently. I saw a question come in on YouTube today, somebody who was saying they had got beautiful bright prints with onion skins on silk, but on rust water dipped fabric or iron dipped fabric, they didn't get the same color prints with onion skins on linen. And that's exactly what happens. You do not get the same colored prints on cellulose fabric, but you do get prints. And it's knowing this and knowing the nuances and how you can enhance the color, how you can use different metal pots and also different metal pipes to achieve different results. And you can also elevate your felting game if you want to work with me and get insider tips about finishing your pieces of felt well and how you can achieve really spectacular results. And certainly quite a number of people in the club and people who I've taught before face to face with wet felting have had, as the years have progressed, if they're older or if they've had an injury or health issues, don't find that it's easy or possible to do all the physical rubbing and rolling with felting. And that is something that I'm very passionate about, sharing how you can use a tumble dryer to replace all the rubbing and rolling. So all you have is that creative part of actually laying out your felt. Now, you might ask as well that if I have a sustainable textile practice, why I might consider that using the tumble dryer for helping with felt was an option. And the reason is that with every sort of process, as things get more and more modernized, equipment comes in. You know, if I want to put a hole in my wall, I don't use a hand screw like this, a drill bit to make a hole in the wall to put a screw in. I have a hammer action drill and that's run by electricity. I use that. So there are certain tools of the trade or things that you need to use at certain times in the processes that you may choose to do. And I think it's very rewarding. If you are finding that wet felting is very physical, I personally think it's very good knowing how you can actually make beautiful felt without having to do that physical rubbing and rolling. Because as you saw during the live stream, felting and the actual wool fiber and the silk fiber is just fantastic to absorb the color from eco printing. So they're a wonderful match. And within the felting, genre, Nuno felting is an absolutely wonderful technique. It's where you combine a very light amount of fabric, such as silk, but it could be cotton gauze or cheesecloth. So a very light amount of fabric very light amount of fiber with fabric. And you can create stunning and soft, very flexible pieces of wearable art. So maybe if you're a wet felter, you might just say yes in the comments so that we know how many wet felters are tuning in. And could you expand a little bit further? Say yes if you're a felter, and then let us know, have you ever eco printed on your felt? So this particular wrap here, this is a simple Nuno felt wrap. And this particular piece was felted in white, and then I printed it afterwards using just a few eucalyptus leaves, but the rest of the color is coming from onion skins. And you can actually see there are graduations of color on the wrap. And some areas have no wool and some areas have wool and embellishing fibers. So you can build up complex colors with a very simple shape. This is just a rectangle and it's got a wide ruffle on one edge and it's got a lighter ruffle on the other. And those are the sorts of things that I share, obviously, when I am teaching. And so then this piece here is purely decorative. This is also handmade felt. And this piece is a combination of eco-printed silk and merino wool. Now, I could have used other wool. There would have been, different choices I could have made in relation to the wool that I chose. But I like using merino for a lot of my pieces if I really want them to be decorative as a wall piece, because the merino has a very fine, it's a finer fiber and it comes through the silk very easily, but it's not hairy on the surface. Whereas if I was using a coarser wool, I would be more likely to use the coarser wool and not incorporate the silk because I would want the coarse texture to be part of the beauty of the felt. So if you're interested in learning with me, the Eco Print and Wet Felt Club, which is what I have just opened up today. So I'm happy to share with you what it's about and happy to answer your questions in a few minutes if you have any. But the Eco Print and Wet Felt Club is the best way of learning with me because since COVID and since lockdown, unfortunately, my mother's health has deteriorated, and so has my father's cousin's health. And I'm now a part-time carer, and I just do not have the time to do face-to-face workshops. I'm teaching once this year in Australia, at the Textile and Fibre Forum in Geelong. That's in September. And believe it or not, the workshop sold out in 5 minutes. And I had friends and people who are following me online, they wanted to come and join. And after 10 minutes, when they went to register, it had sold out actually in the first 5 minutes, which was very, it was very exciting and quite unbelievable, really. So I'll be teaching wet felt and eco printing in Geelong, but that's the only workshop that I'm able to do while I'm in Australia. I just do not have the time anymore to do face-to-face workshops for the moment. So the club is a fantastic way to connect, and you've seen my style of delivery, you know, over the boot camp. And it's really interesting. I've made so many friends online, and then when I do travel to different countries, I meet them. And so the club shares different things. So there are step-by-step videos and my guidance for those new to the specific techniques. And there are also more advanced tips and more advanced techniques in the library, and challenges for everybody, not just people with previous experience. And the library is structured very, very methodically. There's a lot of content in the library. There's a lot of wet felting content. There's a lot of eco printing content. So there's also business development content if you're interested in making a business of your art or your craft or your hobby. There's information about that as well. But it's structured in such a way that there's enough information in each of the sections that if you are an eco printer with no interest in wet felting, or if you're new to wet felting and you really want a good solid foundation in wet felting, you can get plenty from the club in either technique. So these are just a few of the things that are in the library. As I say, the library is very, very comprehensive. So sculptural felt. Many of you have seen that picture of my hanging felt pod, and, you know, bags and different things. Well, as well as flat felt and Nuno felt, I give step-by-step instructions for creating sculptural felt. Then there's eco printing on paper. Maybe some of you sew. It's fantastic to sew garments and then print them. But equally, what I do probably more of is I print fabric specifically with a view to then sewing the fabric. And what I haven't got down here in these points, I also share how to use the dirty pot, how to actually do natural dyeing in the dirty pot. And what's wonderful is if you print fabric with leaves such as eucalyptus, I'm just using eucalyptus as an example. There are just so many different varieties of leaf you can use, and we have a resource in the library with all those varieties. But I did a coat recently where I printed the coat, the body of the coat, and the main sleeves. I printed them with leaves from my own trees. And then the collar and the cuffs of the coat, I actually dyed with leaves. So I had orange collar and cuffs, and then silvery gray with orange printed body of the coat. And so that's something we had a challenge in the library, and actually other people dyed with different natural materials as well, all without using the mordants. And then there are tannin and iron reactions. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, I've been having problems. There have actually been some worldwide internet outages and trouble and tech issues over the last couple of days. And today I was not able to upload reels like I wanted to, aside from my Good Morning post. So I ended up eventually, I managed to upload a really short post with 3 images of tannin and iron pieces that were done without mordants, but they wash absolutely brilliantly. Not every vegetation and not every sort of tannin works, but the thing is, I explain the process and how I use it within the club library, and there's extensive information of that. There's also a section, I like using organic indigo. It combines beautifully, particularly with eco-printed silk. And of course, indigo is wonderful with linen. And there's information about that in the library as well. And so you get personalized attention from me, support, creative challenges. At the moment, we have a jewelry challenge running, textile jewelry challenge. So that could be felted jewelry. It could be eco-printed components that you've put together. It could be any sort of textile jewelry that's been sparked from what you've learned in the club. We have a wonderful community, private Facebook group. And obviously you can work at your own pace. And as I said, if you're interested in eco-printing but not felting, there's no need to even open the felting section of the library, and vice versa. And then there are regular live calls with me, because I think that this is one of the best benefits of the club. So if you came to me, for example, for a workshop, a group workshop here at my studio here in my home, it would be 120 for a group workshop per person for the group workshop, and we would work from 10 until 4 o'clock, so 120 euros per person. Well, for the club, you have a membership subscription, which I'll tell you about in a minute. It's either a monthly or an annual subscription with a discount for the annual, and you get 2 live streams per month minimum from me. I guarantee that you get a live training session followed by a Q&A every month, and a live Q&A session every month. So about every second week, definitely twice a month, you will have 2 sessions, and those are for club only. And one month I will have them early in the morning to accommodate people who live maybe in Australia, New Zealand, over in that side of the world. And then the next month I have them at 6 o'clock, sometimes at 8 o'clock, to accommodate people over, say, on the West Coast of America. So I try and do everything within the club so that people get an equal opportunity to attend things. So for me, you can have the knowledge, and you have plenty of knowledge from the boot camp to get going. But what I do is I can give you wonderful feedback. You can upload images of your work. You can ask questions. You learn from what other people are doing as well. And it's the sort of nuance, and it's the help and good access to me that I think is one of the best value aspects of the club. And don't let the changing seasons hold you back. Obviously, not many of you who are watching now are living in Ireland. Ireland is a small country, and we're all a very international audience. Maybe you might actually just drop in the comments where you're tuning in from, because it's fascinating for us to see and to learn more about where you're watching from. And if you want to drop what time it is where you live as well, that would be really helpful. And for people who are watching this as a recording, you drop comments in as well, please, because Sean and I will be looking at them all afterwards. So there are, I have experienced teaching in different parts of the world, but also there are club members from different parts of the world. I have been teaching for many years, traveling, but also online. And so you're going to have wealth of knowledge in the club. There are resources in the library that you can download. There's loads of information about vegetation. And every time somebody discovers a new plant that gives good prints in the dirty pot without the mordants, I add that to the list. So our list is growing. And it is important to say that when you are working without mordants, you do not get the same prints that you do when you're working with them. And much more vegetation does not give good prints without mordants. But that's okay for me. What I like is to identify in my area, or if I'm teaching somewhere else in that area, what gives really good prints. And I like to work with what's local to wherever I am living or staying. And I'm guessing that many of you are the same, because I do feel we have similar interests. We're interested in foraging. And let's say you live in a city. That does not mean that you can't eco-print, because you can get the leaves from a park. Often there would be cars in trees in public spaces like car parks, or on the side of a street, or plants hanging over somebody's garden wall and the leaves are falling on the sidewalk. Once you're tuned into the possibilities of where you can get vegetation, it's surprising how much you can actually find. And so here's the nitty gritty. So membership is open from now until 11:59 Pacific time on Sunday. And I only opened the club, it started this time last year, and I only opened it one other time for membership at the end of August, beginning of August this year. And so it's going to open one more time, I think, during 2023, but it's not going to open 4 or 5 times. And the reason for that is it's a subscription. It's either 99 per month or 990 per annum. If you pay the yearly fee, you actually get 2 months free. So it's 198 less. There's a full 14-day money-back guarantee. So if you choose to jump on board with me and you are not happy for any reason, it's a no-quibble guarantee. You don't have to have looked through all the information. You'll get your money back if you just send me an email, because I want to work with people who want to work with me. I want to help people develop their own textile practice, and I want to help each individual club member, you know, in the direction that they want to go, because people come in for different reasons, and then they also want to, their aims might be different. And the reason that I only will be opening it up probably once more this year, and it won't be for 4 or 5 months at the earliest, is because when new members come in, there won't be that many, but I want to work with new members and help them have success right from the beginning. And I also want to integrate the new members with the really welcoming group of people who are already members in the club. And I think it's important not to have people just dipping in at different times of the year, having loads of intakes of new people, because this way Shauna and I can get to grips with everybody. Shauna's helping in the background. So if somebody's having issues, you know, logging in or something, and I can't help, Shauna will be able to help. So it's much easier if people start at the same time in batches, and then we're all, you know, it's easier to run everything. And so I'm just going to ask the question, are you interested in joining me to skyrocket your textile practice? And after this video ends, I'm going to put the link into the video description. I'll flash it on the screen here, but there's no need to write it down. I think Shauna will drop it into the comments for me. If you would, Shauna, please. And I had said I was going to toast the club with you, and I only have hand cream beside me. But if you have a glass, raise it up, and the club is officially open for members. If you have a question about it, please just, as always, put the question marks in front and behind. And I'm going to ask you to drop questions in now, because you might have a question. This morning, Rita was just asking actually about soy milk as a binder. And actually there's a section talking about using soy milk or yogurt or milk to help make your cellulose prints much more colorful. So rather than using rust water, you would be using something else. So all those sorts of things are in the club. Okay, so I'm going to just go here. I'm going to see, are there any questions? Yeah, so Jan is saying here, yeah, it's possible to dye without the complications of using mordants. And I hear you, Jan. I don't have a problem when people use powdered mordants correctly and they wear a mask and everything is done correctly. There is the least danger, you know, from the health perspective, but there is always, from the sustainability perspective, working without them is even better, using the pot as the mordant. And yes, Jan, unfortunately, I can't flash my coat up. I don't have it in the slides, but there were wonderful, wonderful pieces made using different natural dyes that people foraged for. So yes, you can do natural dyeing without using a mordant, and you do it in your reactive pot. So Della is curious about the platform. Della, I use Kajabi for the workshop, or not for the workshop, for the membership. When I was teaching workshops, I used to use a different platform. It worked very well. It was called Rizuku, but it didn't give me the facilities that Kajabi has. So for me, Kajabi is really great. And the library is structured very methodically. There's a lot of content in it. And in fact, I'm thinking, is there any way I can make it even better? Something I like doing is getting feedback from people if, you know, if there's something you think as a member in the library that you would like to suggest, offer advice, or something you don't like, because it's there for everybody to get the most out of. So something that I will be doing for new members, for people who choose to jump on board now, the registration closes on Sunday evening. So right at the beginning, you know, you'll get a welcome email and you'll just have access to the initial bit in Kajabi with the welcome. But I'm conscious that when people are not used to using certain software, there's a learning curve. So everybody will get an email explaining what's happening over the next few days, everybody who signs up. And then what happens is we're going to do onboarding next week. So I'm going to set up a couple of Zoom calls, different times of the day, so that I can actually take everybody who joins step by step through how you use your library. And I will do that in real time with everybody. And the only thing I ask you is, when you register and you want to come and work with me and you set a password up, please, even though it always says don't write passwords down, make a note of your password, because I or Kajabi, we never get access to your password. You can reset it again, but it's much easier if you remember it. So Kajabi is the platform, Della, that I use. Okay. Joyce is saying she won't be able to forage until April. When will be the next time you open? I'm very interested. Joyce, I don't want to push anybody at all, but it probably won't be until August. And it might be later because of my trip in September, and I have something in October. So I'm not making promises it will be in August. It might be August. I haven't got the dates sorted because it has to fit in with my family as well. And the thing about it is, if you're really, really interested, every single thing that I share in the library, you can get printing, you can experiment with onion skins and nothing else now. So I'm not saying, I'm not going to push people. I never want to persuade somebody. That's not how I operate. I want you to be totally on board. But there's often never a good time. You know, you can get rose leaves from a florist at any time of the year. They usually strip the leaves from the stems, and we'll give them to you free. And if you think about Valentine's Day coming up, you could get loads of rose leaves. You can store the leaves, you know, you can freeze them, you can store them in different ways. All that sort of information is in the club. So you may not be able to forage until April, Joyce, but if you're interested, imagine you join now, you've got all those months, but if you wait until August, we're then heading into autumn, or it depends where you're living, of course, but I'm not trying to push you. And okay, so Anne is asking, is it possible to get more vibrant colors, yellows, green, etc.? So I'm just going to flash back to one of those pictures for a second. 1 second now, that I had in my presentation there. This particular plant, this is on a silk, and you can see there's green there. Now on other fabric, on a heavier silk, and if I had the whole piece of this gave the most beautiful greens and purple. So there are different leaves that give different colors. Yellow is, you know, you can get yellowy gold colors from quite a bit of vegetation, really. but the more iron you have, the more muted they are. But if you use copper with your vegetation or your onion skins, you get gorgeous yellows. Not with the tannin and iron reactions, you can get incredible greens and beautiful colors and beautiful background colors. And I'm not teaching this now, and don't think I'm being rude, but that sort of information is in the library. But I've had really beautiful pieces with like a purple background and really green leaves doing tannin and iron reactions. And Ellen is saying, will it be of value if you can't print until May or June? I think it's good value, but I can't make that decision for you. So it depends, Ellen, exactly what you want to do, no more than what I said before. Because let's say, I don't know, Ellen, if you're interested in felting and eco printing, but say you're interested in felting, I would just go on a felting frenzy. I would make everything. I would, look through the tutorials. I would make felt bags. I would make felt pods. I would make scarves, whatever, and then print it. You could go out and you could do some great searching. There's plenty about upcycling clothing, and then how you could go and you could find clothing, and you could just get ready and prepare. And I know for sure the library won't be, I would be saying when it opens again, we're talking about sort of early August. If it's going to open at that time of year, it certainly won't be May or June. So if it's not opening until the end of July or the beginning of August, you're going to miss some of that time of year anyway. But as I say, I'm not pushing. Please don't think I'm pushing. Okay. So, Brenda, since I don't live at home during the winter months, I cannot participate until April. Is it possible to join now but do monthly payments in spring or summer? No, let me just remove that so you can see me. This is a subscription. The best way of describing it is it's like Netflix, but it's only got a specific short time period for joining. So when you join, you have access to all the information, but you're paying your subscription. So you can't say you want to join now and start in a couple of months' time. You either start and you stick with it, or you start and you choose not to continue with it. But you can't just pick and choose when you start. I'm only having that onboarding for people at one specific time, and you need to be a member. And that might sound harsh, but my time is really precious to me. And it needs to be something that works for me and also for the other members. So we have onboarding all happening next week. Then there's going to be sort of like an online party where people meet each other, etc. And that's all going to happen within the next week and a half. And you would miss all of that. So I'm afraid no. If you join now, Brenda, you subscribe now. Otherwise, you need to wait until later. Okay. Oh, Cornelia, thank you so much. This is Cornelia. Cornelia's husband, Glenn, is one of the best wood turners in the world. So Cornelia is saying this. Thank you so much. I organized an in-person group class with you a few years ago, pre-COVID, and you are an amazing teacher. So clear with easy to follow step-by-step instructions. Cornelia, thank you so much for that feedback. That's really kind of you. And I do try and always provide clear, simple information. I try and think, what would I have liked to know when I started eco printing or when I started felting, and what would help me get better. So that's how I try and teach. And we are quite direct here in Ireland. Maybe it's a European thing. So, I'm quite straight about that. You can choose to do whatever you like, but if you do what I suggest you do and I recommend, you'll get the similar results that I get. Oh, Susie, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. In the club, do you go into further detail about the possible dirty pots? You mentioned a fish pot, but I don't know what that is. Susie, every sort of information you want about pots is in the club. There's a lot about adjusting your pot liquid. And different pots give different results. So you might choose to use an aluminium or a cast iron or copper. The fish kettle is a longer, thinner pot that you can get, and it's for poaching fish. If you wanted to cook a big fish, you don't need a big, a circular pot. You really need a long, thin pot. So that's what a fish kettle is. But there's plenty about pots, and yeah. Okay. Excellent question. Excellent question. Susie, to begin sooner with felt, is it possible to begin with store-bought felt in the club? So definitely, providing the felt is wool and it's not an artificial fabric. But the thing about felt, the thing for me about felt is I love making sculptural felt. Let me just go back. Let me just bring these slides up again. And I'm just going to remove your comments so you can see. So this here is a piece of felt. This is sculptural felt. This is 3-dimensional. And this was felted in white. So it's made from fiber, from wool fiber with some embellishing fibers. And that's a felt wrap. And again, that's made from silk fabric with wool fiber. So if you buy felt, it's different. It's like a blanket of felt. But if you then, do you see this hat that I'm wearing in that image? That is a felt hat that I bought secondhand in a secondhand store, in actually a vintage store. And I printed that. So it's definitely possible to print on felt. And Irene is asking how much this subscription is. So I'm just going to go back. It's an investment in your practice. Here we go. It's $99 per month or $990 if you decide to pay in one go. And that means that you are getting $29. It's US dollars per month. That is expensive. I understand it's an investment, but you get 2 live streams from me per month, aside from the library. Every month you get challenges. We're going to be doing some workshops where we have Zoom workshops as well. And that works out at less than the price of a cup of coffee in Ireland. If you were buying a coffee every day, it works out at actually quite a bit less than the cup of coffee per day. And it's an investment in your textile practice. Some of my workshop and students in the past, and also people who've studied with me, and somebody who's actually joined the club recently, they have got funding from artist bodies that fund professional development. They've actually got funding to pay for the subscription, because I would be a recognized tutor, and they've got funding to pay for the subscription fee. So it is $99 per month or $990 per annum. And I'll just remove that. Hang on. I'll have to look at a few things. Oh, and Cornelia has got, has just there say, I'm thrilled to say that everyone who you taught is thrilled with their unique garments. Thanks, Cornelia. It's always so exciting. When I see people, I'll just see if I can get one lot of slides up from yesterday. If I can just show you Paul. My friend Paul, he is he teaches in the Botanic Gardens. He's also a print maker. He's a wonderful artist. So I'm just going to see if I had... Oh yeah, this was actually one of the challenges. Let me just take that comment down. This was one of the challenges in the club, was to make this origami bag. And I share how to make felt like this as well. I share how to make felt like this. I'm just looking for the picture of Paul. And of course, I can't see it when I want to. Sorry about that. I thought I would be able to show you the photograph of, maybe it's in here. Okay, let's try this other one. I'll remove this. Okay, no, that's Sorry, my brain. It's obvious this is live. That's not okay. Here we go. So yeah, Lena is asking how about linen and stuff. Absolutely, there's plenty about linen in the club, loads about linen in the club. So what I shared during the boot camp was the very basic about dipping it in rust water. And obviously I just showed you examples of the felt that I was rolling up, but there's loads about working with garments, big pieces, like how you cope with a big blanket, for example, and loads about different fabric. This particular piece here is linen, and that's eco printed with blackberry leaves. But this was my friend Paul, and he came to do a workshop with me. We were working with silk and wool, but he actually brought one of his own t-shirts, and he picked some blackberry leaves from the hedge down here. And yeah, here is the shirt that he printed for himself. Let me see. That was fabric that I printed, and then I sewed the garment. So there's plenty of information and total step-by-step tutorial how to print fabric and pattern pieces and sew and make garments using you could do it with felt, or you could do it with eco-printed fabric. That's another garment I made. And you can see here, this is the difference. These leaves here are Cotinus cogrea grace, and these are eco-printed on wool. And the next image shows the same vegetation on linen. And look at the difference. Look how clear, and that's vintage French linen. Look how crisp and clean the background color of that is, even though it was dipped in rust water. And look how beautiful and complex that is. Excuse me, that was sprinkled with vinegar. So you get to learn all these nuances. And because you can upload your images to the Facebook group, you can ask me very specific questions, and I can give you as specific as possible the answers, but also other, we all have bad days. I had something happen to me last week when a piece exploded in the pot, not in the cooking pot, in a microwave, because I also share how you can use the microwave to reduce energy costs, how you can process bundles in the microwave. But there are issues if you're not careful. And I ran into one of them when somebody came to the door. I let my piece get too dry and the leaves exploded. So you can have empathy from your fellow club members, and you can have suggestions. And then, of course, most of the time, everybody gets fantastic prints and beautiful pieces of felt, so we all admire them. But there will be times when things go wrong. And from the printing perspective, you can overprint, or you can incorporate the print into your felt. And from the felting perspective, you can make things, if your felt hasn't worked out exactly how you would like it to work out, you can make things with your felt. Okay, so Lena, prints on all sorts of fabrics. There is so much information there. Okay. Now, Christine has a really good point here. She's asking, are there other people in the club working with practical limitations, like living in an upstairs flat with only electricity and a shared garden? Christine, I don't know all the individual limitations from the people who are currently in the club, because I don't want to ask people unless they want to share certain things. But somebody who I have become very friendly with online, who's been in many online workshops with me before, Trisha Mowat Salter, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She lives in a lovely apartment in Edinburgh. And so she's living in a flat with just balcony and plants on the balcony. The thing is, if you have only got electricity, you've got to be careful to have good ventilation if you're doing it in your kitchen. And depending on the sort of cooker that you have, you might be limited with the size of the pot you can put on it. But limitations are really just challenges in disguise, I think, because I'm finding I've actually created some really beautiful eco prints on linen recently in the microwave while I was experimenting, so I could share things with the into the club. And you can be really inventive. the microwave is marvelous for doing things like a couple of t-shirts, things that aren't too big. But of course, in the microwave, you can't put metal in. So a fish kettle would be a good option if you have, if you're working, you know, maybe with electricity, fish kettle with a flat bottom. But it's certainly possible. And I will be, somebody else who's actually a club member was asking about making smaller things. So you can do smaller pieces and then combine them together to make bigger pieces, if that makes sense. So Taffy, this has been very inspirational. Thank you so much. If life serves a curveball to a member several months in, is it possible to cancel? Yes, it is. Obviously, it would be good for people to think of it as an annual subscription, because that's how it gets set up in Kajabi. So Kajabi, you can't just kind of dip in and out one month and then not another. But should you choose to cancel at any stage, yes, you can stop. There is no problem whatsoever. So you could join for 4 months and you could decide it's not for you. And at that stage, you could cancel your subscription. So yes, it is possible. And as I say, there is a 14-day money-back guarantee. Okay. Yeah, V, I hope I answered that. Should something come up mid-year? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Ellen is saying, I've done eco printing before. The biggest issue, hands are weak. I can understand that, and a hard time getting a tight wrap. Any suggestions? Well, you're going to see step-by-step videos in the club. But yes, Ellen, just, you know, I'm happy just to share this with you. Just if you're not going to be, I don't know if you're intending on joining the club or not, but what I do, like certainly if you can put something very heavy on the end of your piece of fabric, so a heavy pot full of water or a big bucket. But if you have a second person, that can really help. And you just pull towards you and you pull the bucket as well. That can help, but it can be difficult. I agree. But t-shirt yarn is also helpful, because if you don't have so much power in your hands, the t-shirt yarn is very stretchy. And then the other thing is you could just ask somebody to come and help you in the house for half an hour while you're rolling, you know, well, more than half an hour while you're rolling your bundles. And then you could just give them a nice piece as a thank you. Yes, Kathleen. Kathleen is asking, do I have a dedicated microwave? Yes, all the equipment you use should be dedicated. Certainly, I wouldn't have a problem if you wanted to experiment a little bit with just onion skins, but I wouldn't be doing other things without having a dedicated pot. Okay, I'm just going back to see. Okay, I think that's all the questions, and it's great. It's great seeing your aha moments. Oh wow, Linda's ahead of the game. So now, Linda, there is just one thing I should say. So Linda's saying that you dip the fabric in the rust water and it clears up misinformation. She's already thrifted a large aluminium pot and made her t-shirt yarn. Fantastic, Linda. Now, you can enhance the color of some leaves by dipping them in rust water, but that's not what you're doing to get the good prints on the cellulose fabric. And people tend to use the rust water dip if they're using mordants more with leaves, but not in the dirty pot. Okay. Do you teach how to do painted yarns and wool sliver in the club, which I used to think was pronounced sliver or silver, but it's sliver, I believe. I hope I'm saying that correctly. That is really interesting. I have got that note right down here beside me. And that is something I do want to eco print some yarn and do a demonstration of that. I have taught, I've shown somebody else how to do it, and I've done it myself. It eco prints, yarn eco prints brilliantly. I actually haven't done the wool myself in the dirty pot. I know other people who have, but definitely the yarn I'm going to do, and I might consider doing the wool. Okay. Agnes has a question here. Can I use aluminum from the small tea candles instead of alu foil? I still haven't found an aluminum pot which is big enough. Agnes, I would just say, I don't know, first of all, if they are aluminium. Mine here look like they're stainless steel. I would say that you would be better using some food cans rather than those little candle things. You need a big, you know, I think food cans would give you a better result than those, even though they mightn't be aluminium. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you all. I mean, unless there's a final thing, it's great as well to see what aha moments have been for people. And Joyce, yeah, everything was an aha moment. But yes, using the older, tougher leaves, many people think that those young, fresh green leaves will give fantastic color. And in some cases, young leaves do. But in general, it's the older, tougher leaves. Just think of them as just bigger, stronger, retaining more dye. Okay. Okay, I think Margie's asking, there was some, okay, Margie's talking about a piece of felt. She's saying I showed a piece with some curly looking embellishments in the felted pieces, and did I say it was starlight? I'm going to just type a comment here. So the curly bits were Textile, which is made from eucalyptus pulp, and then Firestar is Firestar, yeah, Firestar with a capital F. It's a trade name. It's a trilobal nylon. That was what gave the shimmer on the surface of the piece you're talking about. And I think that should have gone up into the comments. Okay. Oh yeah, so here's another one. Joanne, how do you configure the layout with upcycled clothes to get prints on sleeves, legs, etc. of garments? That's all covered in the club. So I share all sorts of different garments and, you know, chat. And if you have a project that you want to work on and you're not sure how to get the color in the particular place, you can ask me the question and I will give you help and feedback about your specific garment that you want to print. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm just going to bring Shauna back. We'll give you all a wave. And I can't say cheers, but the club is open. I really look forward to welcoming some of you. I could hear my email pinging a little bit, so I think some of you may have joined. So if you have, thank you so much and cheers. And I really look forward to welcoming you. Next week is going to be when everything kicks off. So please don't stress if you join and you're not quite sure how to access the initial welcome on Kajabi. I will make sure that everything goes out to you in emails as well, so that nobody is unsure next week and you know when the Zoom calls are, so you can join me online and I will show you how to navigate the library clearly. So thank you all so much. Here is Shauna again. We're going to just give you a wave, and I hope your questions were answered. If you're watching on watching this as a recording, do leave your questions as comments and we will be coming back to this. So just to remind you, the membership is open until this Sunday evening. It's $99 US per month or $990 per annum, full money back guarantee. And should you choose the monthly option and decide, you know, 4 or 5 months in, it's not for you, you can stop at any stage. You just stop just before your payment is due, and then you won't get charged for the next one. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. And Shauna, thank you so much for all your help facilitating these live streams. So over and out from Ireland.